Saudi Arabia's ambition to helm the UN's Human Rights Council gets denounced over the kingdom's routine beheadings, floggings and discrimination.
Most people think to stand out in this business, you need to be the first one on top of the story or the person with the loudest voice or the biggest ratings. In truth, to stand out in the news business, you just need to ask the right questions and demand the right answers. Question more.
For them, there are no citizens or foreigners, allies or enemies.
Spying on close friends and partners is totally unacceptable.
Law-abiders or criminals. There are only objects of surveillance.
Surveillance technologies have developed so quickly, and democratic controls have been much too slow.
Hello there, welcome back to RT International. Anger is spreading through the human rights community over the latest UN-backed summit on the subject. Well, the reason is that the venue is Saudi Arabia, which is notorious for dishing out violent judicial punishment. And there's a long list of why campaigners find the choice of the location to be preposterous.
It's bad enough that the oppressive and fundamentalist Saudi monarchy was elected to sit on the UN Human Rights Council. But for top UN officials to visit Jeddah and smile is giving false international legitimacy to a regime that beheads people, systematically oppresses women, Christians and gays, and jails innocent bloggers.
Well, one of the bloggers UN Watch refers to is Raif Badawi. Now, his sentence of 1,000 lashes and a decade in jail has been described as barbaric and medieval, but it's been upheld by Saudi Arabia. Now, Badawi is a renowned human rights campaigner in the country who was arrested on allegations of insulting Islam back in 2012. Later, he was sentenced to jail and public floggings for, quote, undermining the regime and inciting public opinion. Well, this leaked video shows Badawi receiving his first whippings back in January, where he endured 50 of the 1,000 lashes he's going to be subjected to. Well, his friend Alishba Zamin admits that she is now losing hope.
The way Saudi Arabian government works is that every time there is a human rights issue, which Saudi Arabia has a whole list of, they would give in to the international pressure for the time being. And immediately after that, as soon as they'll see that everybody has fizzled out, like everything, the issue has calmed down a bit, they would go back to doing what they are known for. I don't know if I'm optimistic about it anymore. It's really, really heartbreaking. And I was feeling like crying the whole day yesterday because I don't know if we'll be able to free him. But this is something that we have to keep on campaigning.
Well, support for Raif has been pouring out on Twitter. Some condemn Western powers for turning a blind eye to Badawi's plight. Others pointing out how disproportionate the reaction of the Saudi government has been to what the activists actually did. Well, Raif's case has also made some feel grateful that they weren't born in Saudi Arabia. Another case attracting the attention of rights defenders is the plight of an openly gay former Saudi diplomat. Ali Ahmed Asiri is thought to be living in Los Angeles, where he's been desperately seeking asylum in the US. He says he will be killed if he returns home. His initial asylum request was rejected, but Ali is appealing that decision, reiterating that he fears death in his native Saudi Arabia. Well, we spoke to a friend of the former diplomat who says Riyadh exemplifies rights abuses.
Well, Saudi Arabia is an example of no human rights. So for the international community to have this summit without highlighting the massive abuse of human rights by the Saudi government is a huge mistake. The Western countries claim to supporting human rights. This shows that they are unfaithful to these claims, and this shows their hypocrisy and in fact their disregard to the people in the Arab countries. It's really an insult for the United Nations and Western governments to give Saudi Arabia a pass on human rights. The United Nations should stand and speak clearly on this issue and other human rights violations.
Saudi Arabia's legal practices have long been hammered with criticism. The death penalty is a well-used punishment for offences like blasphemy or treason. Adultery is punishable with 100 lashes. A robber could lose their hand in Saudi Arabia. And if you get caught drinking alcohol, then you're at the mercy of the judge. An elusive peace deal between Israel and Palestine has been costed out, and the figures are eye-watering. The respected RAND Corporation global policy think tank has counted out how much both sides would gain if they ended their conflict and what's to lose if they don't. Well, an escalation would cost Israel $250 billion over a decade. Not only that, but its economy would shrink by 10% a year. Journalist and former Israeli diplomat Gideon Levy says lawmakers are doing nothing to stop the violence right now.
Politicians and the peoples themselves go and push for one war after the other. The arms industry is always benefiting, generals are benefiting, politicians are benefiting, but it's very short-term benefits. There is no rational explanation for killing other people, for fighting on nothing, for spending so many budgets on nothing instead of living in better terms.
The RAND Corporation report echoes that thought. Indeed, if peace with Palestine is ever reached, Israel's economy would grow by $123 billion in a decade, while the Palestinians would benefit hugely too, with their average income growing by 36%. Middle East academic Alon Ben-Meir says that a peaceful two-state solution would bring economic development for both regions.
The longer the occupation persists, the worse it will get for Israel. And so I think the Israelis should sooner than later come to this conclusion and look for a solution to bring an end to the occupation. If that is going to result with major economic development, not just for the Palestinian, which is important, but actually the rest of the Arab world. That's where Israel's economy can expand to a great extent.
Now that the G7 summit's wrapped up, it's time for Boom Bust. They're going to dissect the deals. RT International, stay with us. I'll be back in about 30 minutes.